Previously, on the 0 to KSM challenge. We started off by capping the DK to level 70. We did some quests and the world boss. We spammed some normal and heroic dungeons that I didn't record because I'm a derp. And then we did a complete world tour of Mythic Zeros. We farmed some super rares and they were kind enough to give me a staff. We took up engineering and quickly learned how dangerous it could be. And then we finished off with some LFR. All in all, we started the day with 196 item level and finished the day with 371. But today was the day. The wait is finally over. We finally jump into some Mythic Plus. Well, not quite yet. I had some unfinished business with the Broodmother in LFR. I also wanted to do some cooking for food, enchant some of my gear. Oh, and I also picked up some cheap runes on the auction house for my weapon. So I went and did all of those things, queued up for LFR, and we finally got in. On this fight, just like all the previous bosses, I honestly had no idea what to do. I mean, I've cleared this on Heroic as a Havoc Demon Hunter, and I basically deal with the ads, so there's not much difference to be honest. If I'm tanking the ads, I just go pick up the ads. The other tank can just pick up the boss and move him out the way when needed. So I whispered the other tank, gave them the option, and they chose to take the boss, so happy days. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the first attempt at this was really messy because everyone stayed on the boss. I only had like 2 DPS on the ads and I had to like walk across the room with packs of ads and it didn't go very well. So second attempt, I guess everyone woke up and we managed to kill it. And you know what? I think this was the first boss in the raid tier so far that I really enjoyed. Running across the room to pick up the ads, I don't know, I had fun. The other bosses, not so much. We looted the boss and my eyes lit up when I saw the grief torch. And well, my luck so far has been absolutely amazing. So, no, of course we didn't win it. That would have been cool though, right? So yeah, no loot today so far. But the night is young and my bags are empty. Well, sort of. They're a bit of a mess. Now, in the first episode, I explained that I was kind of winging the series. I didn't really know what sort of approach to take. But I've had some wonderful comments from you guys saying that you have enjoyed the way I narrate it. So I think I'm going to carry on doing that. For the most part anyway. We might change it, we might spice it up, I don't know. But yeah, the previous video seems to have done very well and I can't thank you guys enough for all the love and support. I'm incredibly overwhelmed. Thank you. As well as that, there are a few comments that I would like to address. Oh, and I have a bit of a spicy secret that maybe I'll tell you at the end of the video, so you got to stay tuned for that. But no skipping ahead, I need the watch time. Alright, so while I'm forming this +2 Azure Vaults that we got yesterday, I'll just go over a few of the comments from the last video. So there was a comment that pointed out the marker on my screen. Basically, they said they loved the content, but the marker was very distracting. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. My partner also gave me some feedback and she said exactly the same thing. She loved the video, but the marker to say, you are this marker, it was a bit too much. So yeah, that shouldn't really be there in dungeons. It's more of a, like, if you get targeted for a raid mechanic. It's clear and obvious to me because I tend to like tunnel vision on my damage. I'm a DPS man, I do damage. It might still be there for this video and the next episode, but I've turned it off now. It should be fine. Sorry. There's also been quite a few comments about my UI, asking about various different add-ons and weak auras. For the add-ons themselves, in the previous video, I did put a pinned comment listing every add-on that I use. It obviously doesn't go into detail and it doesn't explain any of the weak auras, but I think at some point it's probably worth me making a video on it itself. So if there's enough interest for that sort of thing and you want me to make a video on my UI, add-ons and weak auras, let me know in the comments below. The last thing I wanted to talk about before we jump into this key was something that I should have mentioned in the previous episode, but I completely forgot to bring it up. And that's to do with Raider.io. So Raider.io tracks your Mythic rating score. It shows it on the site, but if you also have the add-on, it'll also display it in game. To everyone else that has the same add-on, when they highlight over your character, they can see what score you have. Not only that, but on the site itself, you can display your ults. So I basically unlinked my DK from my main character. If I didn't do this, it would show my DK as having over 2000 rating and then potentially getting into like higher keys. I obviously didn't want that sort of advantage, so I thought it was best to do that. Alright, that's enough rambling for now. We have 2 Azure Vaults to get into, and I've wasted nearly 5 minutes of your time already, so grab yourself a brew, kick back, and try not to laugh at my tanking, okay? In terms of the group, it's only a +2, so I've taken the first people that have signed up. I skimmed over the route using MDT, and finally, my adventure through Mythic Plus had begun. This run took place on week 6, which made it a tyrannical week. We also had Sanguine, Explosive, and Thundering. Being a +2 means we only have to deal with tyrannical. And tyrannical means bosses have 30% more health. On top of that, bosses and their minions inflict up to 15% increased damage. Now, the first pull in Azure Vaults is something I like doing, and I think it's a good test and a good sign of what's to come, because typically some groups struggle with it. So basically how I like to do this is pull the 3 lashes from the first room into the hallway before the second room onto the tender. Aside from dealing with the affixes, the main thing you want to pay attention to is a cast from the tender called Erratic Growth. This cast basically turns the player into a sapling. It puts a circle around the player for 6 seconds, and once the player is dispelled, anyone inside that circle will then get turned into a sapling. And of course, if that player is dispelled and someone else is in that circle, they're gonna become a sapling too, and you don't want that. This isn't a guide, so I'm not going to go over all the mechanics of the dungeons, but I just thought this pack in particular was worth mentioning. Now, we got to the first boss, and these types of encounters and the add mechanic in particular is what makes me fall in love with the DK. So the boss itself does this ability called Explosive Brand. It knocks you back and puts a swirly circle around you. Basically, you need to use these circles to target the trees and get rid of them. Nuking the trees spawns various adds, and when you combine that with slappy hands, damn is it fun. We took down the boss, and I do this thing that I always seem to do at this boss. I don't understand. And it's the same thing I do with Oribos. Been there so many times, but I never know which way to go. This time it wasn't so bad, but on other occasions I've actually run to the wrong staircase. And just look out for the NPC, you can't go wrong. We moved on, made it down the stairs, past the whelps, and something clicked. So the 2 elementals I'm tanking here require interrupts. They do a couple of casts, I can't remember the specific one, but thanks to my plater, it clearly points out the special one you should interrupt. The other one's not so bad, and I figured in most cases I'd be the one that has to do all the interrupting, because pugs sometimes don't come equipped with those. So I figured out that I only have 1 interrupt, but that wasn't entirely true, for some mobs anyway. If I can grip the mob during its cast, that interrupts them. So technically I have 3, although I'm pretty sure Details doesn't see it like that. But yeah, probably obvious to most DK players, but again, this class is fresh to me, I have no idea. So the fact that I figured this out while on my way to the elementals, I'm going to give myself some credit for that one. I can just feel you guys laughing at me in the comments. Anyway, we made it to the second boss, and that went down pretty smoothly. I even beat the Evoker in damage. And I don't know what it is, but every time I kill a boss in Mythic Plus, I always look at the boss expecting loot, and I'm disappointed that there's no loot. We continued clearing trash as we made our way to the third boss, and just before you teleport over there, I had some fun with the frogs. So the frogs like to jump around. Using Slappy Hands kind of negates that. They were trying to jump around, and Slappy Hands was just bringing them straight back. On top of that, like outside of Slappy Hands, I've also got the double grip, so yeah, I was having a lot of fun with that.
Nope.
We got to the third boss, nothing special about this one. Don't stand in the ice for too long. When the boss jumps to the middle and casts Absolute Zero, stand in the rune shield. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward, but again, it's only a +2. We made it to the final boss, and as you can see on the right, we're absolutely smashing the timer. So as long as we don't wipe on this one, we can turn the +2 key into a +5.
Wow.
My biggest tip for this boss, because it can be a killer, is to basically tank the boss right at the back, like as far as you can go. In terms of like camera angle and position, it's absolutely horrible, but it means that the crystals are bunched much closer together. We killed the boss and turned the key into a +5 Nokhud Offensive. Now, this was only the first of 5 keys that we're going to cover in today's video, but I don't particularly want to make this like an hour long, so I think I'm just going to split this episode up into key points of the dungeons. But let me know in the comments what you guys would prefer. I can either continue showing key moments of the runs, or I can perhaps show more of an uncut version. I don't think I'm going to win with this one. You can't please everyone. So, Nokhud Offensive +5. Sadly, no one wanted to continue from the previous run, so I had to form an entire new group. Now, this place is fine. The only part I struggle with is the percentage, and you do the majority in the open field area where the third boss is. You basically want to finish this area at 94% and then proceed to the last boss. Flying left, by the way, you always fly left. Always left. Left. But yeah, I can never remember which mobs to take, so I just kind of wing it every time I go in there, make up the 94% and then move on. It's worked for the most part, but sometimes I go over a little bit, it's fine. At the last boss, you clear the 2 adds, it makes up for the 100% completion, and then you kill the last boss. Now, the last boss, there's a mechanic where the boss throws a spear at you. Basically, the boss targets you, you have a massive circle underneath your character. The spear hits the ground and drags all players to that location, and then the boss charges to that location. So it's a good idea you get out the way pretty quick. Now, as a way to negate the charge, you can actually stand on the other side of a rock that I've placed the boss close to. That was under the assumption that everyone knew. And in pugs, you cannot make assumptions. As the boss is charging, we have 50 seconds left to kill it and +3 the key, which would turn it into an 8. Now, the priest does something amazing by gripping the evoker closer to the rock. However, I'm not sure the evoker's on the same page. The evoker panics and starts running away. And this, sadly, ends up resetting the boss. Oh, big rip. Oh well, not the end of the world. The boss respawned, we ended up killing it with no problem. We were given a 7 ruby life pools, and once again, no loot. Dude, has my luck come to an end? Where's all the gear? That brings us to keystone number 3, and I've probably not mentioned it yet, but if you're struggling to get into groups for keystones, I highly recommend you push your own key. Especially if KSM is something you're trying to achieve and you're struggling. It's honestly, hands down, the best advice I can give. It's not always going to work, don't get me wrong, but it's your group, so I mean, you have full control, you can pick the composition, and of course I guess you can be picky and only take high item level or rating. In terms of composition, I really wouldn't worry that much. Maybe go for a CR and a Bloodlust. Apart from that, take whatever, it doesn't matter. Unless you're pushing the really high keys, then maybe put some more thought into it. And going into the Ruby Life Pools 7, I put together a group that has just that, 1 CR and 1 Bloodlust. Okay, I lied, it was a complete fluke, it just worked out that way. Once again, I just took the first people that signed up. Occasionally I was getting players that were like 310 item level. Those got instant declined, sorry. You can't even queue for heroic dungeons, man, get out of here. Oh, I totally forgot. Because Nokhud Offensive was a 5, we had to deal with Sanguine. Grips were really useful for that, by the way. And because this Ruby Life Pools is a 7, we have to deal with both Sanguine and Explosives. I wonder who has to deal with all of those. It's always the healer's job, it's the healer. Blame the healer, it's always the healer. Explosive is healers. Healer's job, healer's job. I saw it on a Twitter post, don't hate me. So this run, all in all, actually went pretty smoothly. Though I think the Shaman got a bit excited and used Bloodlust on the last group before the last boss, so we didn't have Lust going into that. And I think I got a little flustered with my HP yo-yoing, misclicked an ability, or I don't know what happened. I panicked and derped, okay, I died. Well, I mean, the healer died first. I was trying to combat res. I then died, so the healer resed and then had to combat res me. Nevertheless, we killed the boss in clean fashion, I might add. And oh look, good teamwork guys, good job. Though I think I was kind of rewarded for my actions. I mean, look at the explosives and the interrupts. I'm quite impressed with that. But then it was a massive slap in the face at the fact that it gave me a 9 Azure Vaults. Man, I gotta go back there again. So I did in fact get a Blaze Binder's Hoof Trinket from the chest, but I already had the Decoration of Flame and the All Totem of the Master. Was I really gonna replace one of those? Plus I really didn't want to drop all of that strength. Nevertheless, because it was an item level upgrade, I couldn't trade it even if I wanted to. I really wish this wasn't a thing. I mean, it's probably useless to me. Why can't I give it to someone else? Anyway, 9 Azure Vaults was the next key. And because we've already covered that in today's video, I'm not going to bore you with the rest of it. So we'll skip right to the last boss and we'll see what happens. Yes, we made it to the last boss. So we managed to kill the boss with 3 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. My key gets upgraded to a 10 Shadowmoon Burial Grounds, which is great by the way. A very nice and comfortable key to push on. And inside the chest we get a chest in a chest. A huge upgrade, yay! Yeah, sorry, it's probably worth noting that I'm a father of 3, so my jokes are pretty terrible. With the new chest piece equipped, it brings our item level up to 372. And now the real test begins, because now we're pushing 10s. And that means we get the introductory of Thundering. Yeah, it sounds exciting, it's not so exciting. Now, because we're starting to push 10s and I'm not quite convinced of my item level and ability, I decide to look for someone else's key and see how that goes first. Being a tank, and pretty much the same for a healer, it's a lot easier to get into a group than a DPS. I was well aware of this coming into the challenge, and I knew I was going to get a few comments on it. So I just want to clarify, I didn't choose the Blood DK for an easy ride. I chose a class that I really struggle with. It probably would have been a lot worse for me if I chose Unholy or Frost, don't get me wrong, but this is all challenging enough for me personally at my skill level as it is. But to all you guys commenting and saying, ha, try it as a DPS. Well, just so you know, when this challenge actually ends, it will be down to you guys to decide what I do next for Season 2. So if you want me to play a healer, I'll play a healer. If you want me to play a caster or a melee DPS, then that's what I'll do. But as I've played a tank for Season's 1 challenge, a tank won't be an option for Season 2. And I guess as there are so many classes, in terms of doing the poll and letting you guys decide, I'll probably make a thread on my Discord. So yeah, if that's something you guys are interested in and you want to vote for what I play next in Season 2, might be a good reason for you to join the Discord. Links down below. But for now, let's get back to the keystones. So I thought about what type of dungeon I wanted to go to, and purely because I lack the knowledge in Court of Stars, I thought I'd look for a Court of Stars 10. Now, when I say lack knowledge, it's not so much mechanics and route. I think I'm pretty good with that. Struggle with the spy sometimes, especially if I'm not on my DH, because it's obviously a lot easier with True Sight. But there's the whole like class profession stuff that you can take advantage of. Yeah, I really need to go and watch a video on that before I start pushing higher, I think. The only one I can remember is the first boss where you've got the alchemist or rogue, where you can click on the file and you skip like, what is it, the last 10 or 20%? That's the only one I remember. The only other thing I remember about this dungeon is, oh my god, the bad camera angles. What's with the stupid trees? It drives me mad. All in all, pretty smooth dungeon. We only had one death and we plus 2'd it with 17 seconds remaining. Sadly, I didn't get any loot, but I left feeling pretty confident about not only my character in general, but also my ability at the level of keys we were currently pushing. So with that, I bid the group farewell and I decided to pug my own key. Shadowmoon Burial Grounds plus 10. Now, in my opinion, I've probably started with the 2 plus 10s that are probably the easiest to push. They are both quite short in time, and the difficulty level just doesn't seem to a scale of, say, a Halls of Valor. But yeah, overall, very happy. Item level 372 and quite comfortably pushing plus 10s. And then it was time to push my own key. Shadowmoon Burial Grounds plus 10. Due to the confidence I had from the previous plus 10 Court of Stars, I felt like I could plus 3 my Burial Grounds 10. Now, admittedly in this one, I was a little bit more picky when it came to who I chose. I took the Warrior and the Rogue, and they were both hovering around the 385 item level. And although I had some really good, like 395 melee DPS signing up, I didn't want a very melee heavy group, already having both a Warrior and a Rogue. So I held out for a ranged DPS and managed to get a 393 Evoker. And the Resto Shaman that I picked up was, I think, about 382 item level. So yeah, we were going into it with a pretty decent group. Now, we started the run and everything seemed to be going according to plan. The ads were going down well, Thundering was being dealt with appropriately, ads were being interrupted, I had to do the majority of the explosives, and the bosses went down pretty quick too. However, we finished the third boss, and I don't know if you've noticed by now, but we look a little shy on percentage. Now, like mentioned, I wanted to plus 3 this key, and time was definitely on our side. But, well, if you've pugged this key before, then yeah, you've probably seen a few deaths to the last boss. And well, that was no different in this case. We were very close to killing the boss, and the healer and the rogue died. The shaman anked, and because we were so close to killing the boss anyway, I decided to CR the rogue. We killed the boss and we still needed 2% to finish the dungeon. Luckily, there's a portal that takes you right back to the beginning, and there's an ad pretty close by, and that was all we needed. But the run all the way back to the end as a DK, oh my god, it's painful. So yeah, a massive derp on my part. Usually I skip this and we still get 100%, so I'm not actually sure what I did differently in that run. There's still a lot to these dungeons that I don't know, and well, that obviously shows. Nevertheless, I planned to plus 3 the key, and we did just that. I finally made my way back to the chest, and you'll never believe what I got. I approached the chest, I took a quick peek at my gear, and looked at the items that I desperately needed to upgrade. And oh my dilly-dally, we got a weapon. Some of you guys in the comments couldn't believe my luck, and I told you it wasn't gonna end. Funnily enough, this actually dropped for the warrior, and before I got to the chest, I asked him if he needed it, and he said yes. I picked mine up, and I was like, oh, never mind. I left the group, equipped the weapon, and it took our item level up to a whopping 375. As well as that, we took our Mythic rating score up to 655. And the key we got at the end of that was a plus 13 Algotha's Academy. Now, at this point, it was Tuesday night. We had the vault to open tomorrow. I was quite excited for that. And I wanted to end the night on a high. So in terms of Mythic Plus, we stopped there. But before I finish, I just wanted to do one last thing. And that was something I was excited for from the very beginning, to craft a lariat. Now, dragonflight professions have been incredibly overwhelming to me. There's still a lot I don't know, and I haven't dove into the majority. I've actually slacked pretty bad, even on my main character. So I had to learn how to put in work orders and get the materials, and then of course learn how to put free gems in the lariat neck itself. Now here's where some of you are probably gonna question or laugh at me, but I finally did it all. I figured out how to put the work order in, and of course because there's no friends or guilds, I had to come up with a commission. I've never done this sort of thing before, so I had no idea how much to put it up for. I think for the most part, people are just happy to actually do the orders themselves, regardless of the commission. So perhaps 1k was a bit too generous. I really don't know. But pretty much the second I put it up there, it was done. It took no time at all. I went and bought my tiered medallions. It already comes with a socket, so you basically buy, or at least in my case, I don't know if this is how it works for everyone. I bought a rank 2 and a rank 3. I applied those to the lariat along with the gems. And with the lariat equipped, it brings our item level all the way up to 378. Though I did make a mistake. About half an hour prior to this, I did the siege and it gave me a cache that had 382 boots inside. Though unfortunately, I don't have the footage for this. Another little whoopsie on my part. I'll get better, I swear. So that's where we leave this episode. Item level 378, and in the first week, we've managed to push a 10. Well, 2 of them. But do you guys remember I said at the beginning I had a dirty little secret? You guys want to know what it is? Alright, fine, I'll share. You've stuck around this long, so I might as well tell you. Well, the first episode was yesterday, and the second episode was today. So I basically did all this progression, leveling from 60 to 70, going through the gearing process, and on the second day, the character is already pushing 10s. Alright, not so impressive to some people, but to me, and I'm happy with the progression. Before I leave you, I just want to say thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all the love and support on the first one. 2 days ago, I had 400 subscribers on YouTube. At the time of creating this video and doing the voiceover, I have 858. That's 2 days later.
What the heck?
You guys are absolutely insane. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy the video, a like would be much appreciated. Consider subscribing to the channel to see how this journey continues and ends. And seeing as some of you guys don't actually have friends or guildies to run keys with, I do a Saturday social stream over on Twitch every Saturday. It's usually around 1 PM UK time, so if that's something you guys are interested in, feel free to drop by. It's open to absolutely everyone. It doesn't matter about your skill level. I usually run them on my alts just to fill the vaults for the weekly reset, so the level of key is usually around the 10 mark, but I don't mind adjusting it. Everyone is absolutely welcome. But that's me done. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.